Hey, everybody, welcome to Outsider Reviews. In today's episode, I asked two different dealers from two different manufacturers some pretty good questions about dealing with one manufacturer versus the other. And you guys are going to want to listen to this because they provide actually some good info about true price and about what dealers are actually doing and what people think that are getting actually good deals are actually not getting a good deal. So stay tuned, watch the video, and we'll see you at the end. We have our new our own insider as well who just joined us, Junior. Hey, well, say hi to Johnny.
What's going on, guys?
Hey, Junior.
Nice to have you there. And so Junior, we were just talking about direct to sale and how I personally am not a big fan of it because it doesn't allow us to have negotiation. I kind of know from our previous shows where you stand as well on negotiations and stuff.
Yeah.
And I kind of been thinking about something that was said. I don't know if Johnny, you're in around the same mindset as Junior here, but he says when you go buy a TV, you don't haggle for the price of the TV, you pay the price of the TV. I'm actually more in the camp of, well, Junior, when you go buy a house, do you have a realtor there to help you, coach you and negotiate the price of the house? Because I find that since it's your second biggest purchase of your life, that's more relative than a TV, for example. And I only buy TVs on sales, just so you know.
So, if I may, I'm going to interject because I agree with both of you, and I think perspective is really the key here. So let's use the example of the TV. The TV, we don't mind buying the TV without any negotiation because we can still shop a sale. And why will there be a sale? Because the manufacturer deems there to be a reason to have a sale. Whereas when you shop a house, yes, sometimes you need to negotiate the price of the house because sometimes the asker, the seller, isn't reasonable. So you need you need to actually pay a huge fee, 4 to 6%, to someone to be a BS cutter. So really your sales agent is just a BS cutter. They're there sort of like a lawyer. Unfortunately, we have a court system because some people are crooked. If we didn't have crooked, if everyone was honest and followed the rules, there wouldn't be a court system. And I think really that's what direct to sale, or I think the true ideal is a hybrid system where you still have professionals who are sales service consultants. So they're really there just to serve you, for assisting you with your potential purchase. But if you, in the house example, imagine if people could only list their house based on what it was evaluated by the town. Well, that would make it so that everyone would pay their vehicles correctly. And if you don't like how a town evaluates, let's say you're looking outside of the Montreal area, and that town, Candiac thinks that their homes are worth on average 1.5 million. Well, as a consumer, you can say, Candiac, you guys are a bunch of candy arses. You don't know what you're talking about. I'm going to go live in Sherbrooke, where the average house price is 500,000 for the same square footage. And as a consumer, you'd have that protection. Well, manufacturers, that's really what some of them are considering, especially Ford. They're considering that it is good to have a sales consultant there to help you with the road test, to answer any technical questions that you have. So instead of them spending hours, all their training being based really on how to start at $8,000 over the price you really should be, and then eventually ending up at maybe a deal that's too good for the dealer. Maybe they make the extra 8, maybe they make 4,000 too much, or maybe because of the competitive nature of the internet during certain economic periods, they make $3,000 less than the advertised price, and they're 500 below cost. I've known salespeople over the years I've been doing this. I've known salespeople where their sales average was not right around $500 per unit on vehicles that were on average about $40,000. So really, and that's not profit, that's revenue. So really, every single sale they made, they lost money. They cost their existence at a dealership was causing the dealership to lose money. So if you have, and sorry, I know I'm long-winded and I'll just wrap it up, but if you do have the manufacturer deciding on a price, I've already seen it with Ford. It means that the price, in between paying $8,000 too much and the dealership losing money, it ends up just being enough for the dealership to survive. So it's sort of like that happy medium where the dealership is guaranteed to survive, but they're not making a huge profit margin. And I think that's the best way for buyers, consumers, to consistently overall get the best deal. Because, out of 20 people, I've always noticed everyone asks for a good deal. Everyone who buys thinks they got a good deal. But really, you could say out of 20 people, maybe 2 of them really stole the vehicle, basically, and the dealership's going to lose money on. And then the rest is a spectrum between they really paid too much and they really did not pay enough. And fixing the price really just avoids that and makes sure everyone gets a deal that is good for the consumer and good for the dealership. That's the BS, really. I guess I should have just said it's like having your house agent with you who's there to cut the BS, but you don't need to pay them 4 to 6% anymore, which is really what the manufacturers want to do. They want to give dealerships a lot less money to sell the vehicles because they won't be selling them anymore. The whole disagreeable portion of it, and some people like conflict and they like to go into battle. But when you're with, salespeople, they're in battle every day. So who do you think's generally going to be better at battle? The salesperson who, does this with 5 to 10 different clients every single day, or the person who shops their vehicle once every 5 years, or if you're a nut job like me, once every 6 months. But it's more often than not, it's the dealership that ends up with the better hand.
Junior, what are your thoughts?
Well, you know what? I actually do agree with what Johnny is saying, is because the perception that people have to go into a car dealership and negotiate versus going to, I don't know, Best Buy and buying a TV is completely different, because people are set to pay a certain amount for a TV. But then it is known in the market that you can walk into a dealership or even buy a house and negotiate. But now, pre-COVID was a different ball game versus now, right? Because I can only speak with because I'm in the Nissan world. Now Nissan actually set the bar where the cars are sold at MSRP. That's it. You know what I mean? So we're not discounting any cars. Now the used car market still the same, so we can still discount somewhat. But when it comes to brand new vehicles, personally, when a salesperson comes to me, it's the customer wants a deal. This is the price, and that's all I'm going with. Now, personally, obviously, I'm a shopper myself. So if I'm going to go buy a car, do I want the best deal? Of course. But now, do I go into I want the dealership to make money and I want the best deal for myself, right? So now, where do I get my deal? Usually they have more flexibility in the back end. So which means if I want extended warranties, rust proofing and all that fun stuff, that's what I'll get my discount. And I'm okay with that. Okay. So it all depends on what you want. And that's why with customers, I just had an incident actually just the other day. This guy comes in and then my salesperson comes to me and he's like, oh, this guy wants like $5,000 off this vehicle. And I'm like, no, it's not happening. I don't even have $5,000 in the car profit. Right. So then again, a lot of people pre-COVID, a lot of people wanted to negotiate. I know even you, Pat, even you came to me with like car cost Canada, with all that fun stuff.
Canada,
yes. And again,
we're not sponsored, but we do like that website.
Right. But at the same time, I actually do appreciate a customer that actually does their research and they have knowledge about buying a vehicle, which is fine. But then we just need to find a medium where we're going to agree on the price. And that's what Car Cost Canada is, because it tells you the dealership may sell the vehicle to you at X percentage, but it's up to the dealership, right?
No, but now that I have you and Johnny here, if I'm shopping for, let's say, a pickup truck, something about the same size you guys both have, you have the Ranger and you have the Frontier. I know the Mavericks is big popular, but I find the Frontier and the Ranger are very more comparable than the Mavericks. So, so doesn't that puts you behind the eight ball. The fact that if I ask you for like, 5 grand, and Nissan kind of handcuffs you in the sense that you're not allowed to sell below MSRP. And then I go see Johnny, and Johnny's like, well, I do have some flexibility. Isn't the customer more going to be prone to go towards that flexibility just because it's going to make him feel like he's more valued than the person who's going to say there's no negotiation going on? Junior?
Very good question. My point to that actually is one, if you're comparing the Frontier again to the Ranger, that's great.
Yeah.
At the same time, I know Ford, amazing trucks, So at this point, it's which truck do you like better? Now, I do have flexibility in the pricing, especially when it comes to Frontier, because I'll say this, Nissan doesn't do as well as Ford in the truck market. We all know that the F-150 is one of the leader trucks in the market. So
Yeah. They
people are
sell
going
a
to go to
million or
Ford,
so.
they're going to go to Dodge if they want to buy a pickup truck. They won't come to, well, again, there are people that do come to Nissan for the Frontier, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, it's whichever truck they like better. Because most people will test drive the Ranger and then they'll test drive the Frontier. So if a guy sits in front of my desk and then he's like, okay, you know what? I want the Frontier, but I went to Ford and then they gave me this, right? So then obviously I'm going to try to do something with that customer because I don't sell as much trucks in my at my dealership. So I'm going to wiggle. I have some wiggle room when it comes to that vehicle. But then if we're talking my Nissan Rogue, my Cash Guys, my Kicks, those are my hot sellers. I'm not moving the price, but on a car that I'm not selling as much, yes, I want it out of my dealership, so I'll be flexible.
All right. Johnny?
I'd like to answer that question as well because throughout the last 2 years, I've dealt with that question because a lot of Ford dealerships were actually selling above MSRP.
Mm.
And the dealerships that were giving a really good price were the ones that were selling at MSRP with Ford's interest rate, not forcing people to go with a bank interest rate at a high percentage so that they can get a cut, but actually giving Ford's interest rate, which was incredible on the F-150. For a long time, the F-150 was at 1%, 0%, then 1%, then 1.99. They slowly brought it up. Now they're slowly bringing it back down. But yeah, you did have that, and I'd say the client that gets the customer that gets the $5,000 discount rarely ever gets a $5,000 discount. Usually, what happens is they go to different dealerships, different brands, because they're not shopping a vehicle. Like, Junior says, essentially, shop the vehicle, go with the one that you like, which is amazing advice. Because I'd say the worst consumer is not the consumer of vehicles, but the consumer of rebates. So you do have people who shop rebates, and that's all they're shopping for. And they're horrible for their friends and family. You should, if you've got a brother-in-law that's like this, don't go see him on, Canada Day or Independence Day. Avoid this person at all costs because they will ruin your brain. Because generally what they will do is they will go to dealerships until a dealership says, here's your $5,000 off. Now, often that's the dealership that started at $8,000 more than, the actual true price. So dealerships that essentially the dealerships that go into battle against the consumer, which I think is a horrible experience. It makes me feel horrible inside as both on the consulting side and also on the buying side. But the dealerships that often give the best rebates are the ones that are just most prepared for battle. And they pick up these customers, these buyers who are only buying for a rebate. So then you've got, your brother, let's say brother-in-law, Jimmy at the family party is going to be telling everyone you're all a bunch of suckers because he's generally a negative guy who really is narcissistic and thinks a lot of himself. And he's going to tell everyone, I got a $5,000 rebate and you're all suckers for not getting $5,000 rebates. Well, traditionally in my area, the two dealerships that don't have any window stickers, any prices on their new vehicles, and they boost them by 10%, and they start often the sales process by not giving the manufacturer internet rebate, which generally was between $2,000 and $5,000. Well, they would pick up this, brother-in-law or cousin who spends his entire time at the family party telling everyone how they're all dummies because he saved $5,000 and they didn't. So there's a danger to that. So Pat, I really like your question because it's really asking, well, what about the customers that really need that $5,000 rebate to feel like, to be able to purchase? And throughout the last 3 years, I can say that a lot of people, not everyone, because some will just walk out, but a lot of people, when you explain to them, well, a lot of dealerships are having dealer fees. A lot of dealerships are increasing the price or having forced added accessories. Whereas I'm going to sell you the vehicle at, Ford's true price. There is enough money. There's still money in the deal, so I can live. My dealership, my business can survive. We're not going to go bankrupt doing this business model, but it is a good deal for both. It's a fair deal for the consumer, and it's a fair deal for the business. So both the consumer and the business get a fair deal. And when it comes to electric vehicles, or let's look at the Ford Maverick here, dealers that say, "Oh boy, they're not available," but let's say they were available. A lot of these have about $1,500 of profit on them. So, people who traditionally say, "I'm not buying unless I get winter tires and $2,000 off or $2,000 more for my trade," it's just not possible. It's
Well,
so
it's
I
about
think
out the
some,
door price, right? It's not
yeah,
about rebates. It's about, if your cousin that's bragging at a family party and it's bragging about getting a $5,000 rebate, well, what did you pay? And he might not even know what his out the door price was, but like we
generally
advocate
doesn't.
here is know your out the door price. So that's going to wrap up this episode. I want to talk about a couple of takeaways that Junior actually mentioned, that he is more apt to negotiate on the frontier because they don't sell as many. And that's something you're going to see across the line with all your dealers is find a vehicle or find a dealership that's not selling as well. They're going to be more motivated to give you guys some discounts, some extra discounts. Like Johnny talked about, don't be the one bragging about getting great deals if you don't know what your out the door price is. Know what the actual price that's being charged at the manufacturer on their website. Go to the manufacturer's website, go to build and price, know exactly what the manufacturer's suggested retail price is. Don't just assume the dealer's going to tell you, hey, it's $45,000, when in fact it's actually like $43,000, and then they knock down $2,000. You feel like you got a good deal, but you actually really did not. So know what the true price is of the vehicle. Get the actual discounts. It's not just about getting discounts, it's about the outdoor price. And that's going to be a winning formula. As always, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you later.